They say when an alpha dies without an heir, his pack dies with him. My father had 3 days left to live, and he'd just sold me to save them all. I was born under a crescent moon with eyes the color of winter ice. My mother died bringing me into this world, and my father, Alpha Marcus Ashwood of the Silver Pine Pack, held me in his arms and wept. He never remarried. Never took another mate. For 19 years, it was just him and me against the world. He taught me to hunt when I was 6. To fight when I was 8. To lead when I turned 13. You're all I have, little moon, he'd say, brushing my silver blonde hair back from my face. One day, you'll be the first female alpha this pack has ever known. And you'll be magnificent. I believed him. Believed that strength and love were enough to protect the people you cared about. I was wrong. The poison came on a Tuesday night, delivered in a bottle of wine from Alpha Gregor of the Stoneclaw Pack. A gift, the messenger said. A token of friendship between allied territories. My father drank half the bottle before I smelled it. The wrongness. The bitter, rotting sweet scent of nightshade mixed with something darker. Something magical. By Wednesday morning, he couldn't stand. By Thursday afternoon, his skin had turned grey, his eyes clouding with silver. Our pack healer, old Marion, examined him with shaking hands. It's bloodbane poison, laced with witch magic. There's only one cure. Name it, I said. Whatever it costs. She looked at me with ancient, pitying eyes. The moonblood flower. It grows only in one place in all the 6 territories. My blood turned to ice. No. The Shadowveil lands, she confirmed. Ruled by Alpha Dacian Nyx. Everyone knew about Dacian Nyx. The Scarred King. The Alpha of Shadows. The wolf who'd burned 3 packs to the ground for looking at him wrong. They said he was descended from the first wolves, that he'd made a pact with dark magic, that his packlands were cursed and any wolf who entered never came out the same. They said he didn't take mates. He took prisoners. There has to be another way, I whispered. Marion shook her head. He has the flower. And he'll demand a price for it. That night, I sat beside my father's bed and held his hand. His skin was cold, his breathing shallow. Kira, he rasped, his once strong voice reduced to a whisper. Don't go to him. I have to. He'll destroy you. I squeezed his hand gently. You taught me that alphas protect their pack. You're my pack, Dad. You're all I have. His eyes filled with tears. I love you, little moon. I love you too. I left before dawn with nothing but a horse, a knife, and a message I'd sent ahead by Raven. Alpha Dacian Nyx. I come seeking the moonblood flower. Name your price. Kira Ashwood. The journey to Shadowveil took 2 days on horseback. 2 days of riding through increasingly dark and twisted forest, where the trees grew so close together they blocked out the sun, where the birdsong died and was replaced by an unnatural silence. Other travelers gave the road wide berth, crossing themselves and muttering prayers when they saw which direction I was headed. On the second night, I camped at the border, where a stone marker carved with a snarling wolf marked the edge of Dacian's territory. I didn't sleep. How could I, knowing that tomorrow I'd meet the monster who held my father's life in his hands? Just before midnight, I smelled it. Ash and midnight jasmine. Ozone before a lightning strike. A scent so powerful it drove the breath from my lungs and made my wolf, quiet for years, suddenly howl inside my chest. I stood slowly, my hand finding my knife, my heart hammering against my ribs. And then he stepped out of the shadows. The largest wolf I'd ever seen, his fur black as a starless sky, his body covered in scars that glowed silver in the moonlight. His eyes burned like storm clouds lit from within. Alpha Dacian Nyx. And he was looking directly at me like he'd been waiting for me his entire life. Chapter 1. The Scent of Salvation. The wolf didn't move. Neither did I. We stood there in the darkness, predator and prey, though I wasn't entirely sure which of us was which. My fingers tightened around my knife handle, not that a blade would do any good against an alpha in wolf form. Especially not this alpha. His scars caught the moonlight, creating patterns across his massive body like ritual markings. But they weren't decorative. They were violent. Deep grooves that spoke of chains and silver and pain. My wolf was losing her mind beneath my skin, clawing to get out, whimpering and snarling in equal measure. The reaction was wrong. Wolves were supposed to feel one of two things when facing an apex predator: fear or submission. I felt neither. I felt recognition. The black wolf shifted. The transformation was brutal and beautiful. Bones cracking and reforming, fur rippling back into scarred skin, the wolf becoming man in the span of a heartbeat. He rose to his full height, and my breath caught. Dacian Nyx was taller than any male I'd ever seen, his body carved from muscle and violence. His black hair fell past his shoulders, wild and unbound. He wore nothing but leather pants that hung low on his hips, leaving his torso bare. And the scars. They covered him. Not random marks, but deliberate patterns. Around his wrists like shackles, across his ribs like fingers, circling his throat like a collar. They glowed faintly silver, pulsing with each breath he took. But it was his face that stole the air from my lungs. Sharp cheekbones. A strong jaw covered in dark stubble. Full lips that looked cruel and soft at the same time. And those eyes, storm grey with flecks of silver that seemed to see straight through me, straight into every secret I'd ever kept. He took one step forward. Then another. His nostrils flared as he breathed in my scent. "Kira Ashwood," he said, my name rolling off his tongue like a dark prayer. His voice was deep, rough, like gravel dragged across silk. "You smell like moonlight and lies." I swallowed hard, forcing myself to meet his gaze. "I don't know what you mean. Don't you?" He moved closer, circling me slowly, and every instinct I had screamed at me to run. But I'd come too far to back down now. My father was dying. I needed this monster's help. So I stood still, even though my hands were shaking, even though my wolf was howling, even though being this close to him made my skin burn like I was standing too near a flame. "You smell like winter rain," he continued, his voice dropping lower. "Like wild sage and silver birch. Like something I've been searching for." He stopped directly behind me, so close I could feel the heat radiating from his bare chest. But underneath all that sweetness, he whispered, his breath hot against my ear, "You smell like desperation." My jaw clenched. "My father is dying. Alpha Gregor poisoned him with bloodbane and witch magic. Your moonblood flower is the only cure." I know. Those two words made ice shoot down my spine. I spun to face him. "You know?" His smile was slow and dangerous. "Did you really think a message raven could cross into my territory without my permission? I've known you were coming since the moment you sent it. I've been waiting. Then you know why I'm here. To beg." The word hit me like a slap. To bargain. Same thing. He tilted his head, studying me like I was a puzzle he was trying to solve. "Tell me, little moon, what exactly do you think you have that I could possibly want?" Everything in me wanted to snarl at him, to shift and show him I wasn't some helpless omega to be dismissed. But I needed him. Needed his flower. Needed to save my father. So I lifted my chin and met his storm grey eyes. "You tell me. You're the one who's been waiting." His laugh was dark and made something low in my belly tighten. "Clever girl." He circled me again, slower this time, his gaze dragging over me like a physical touch. "I'll give you the moonblood flower. I'll save your father's pathetic life." Hope flared in my chest. "What's your price?" "You." The word hung in the air between us like a death sentence. "Me?" I whispered. "1 year," Dacian said, stopping in front of me again. "You stay in my territory as my bonded mate. You wear my mark. You sleep in my bed. You belong to me, completely." My heart slammed against my ribs. Bonded mates are permanent. The bond doesn't just. This one will. He pulled a folded parchment from seemingly nowhere and held it out. A witch-crafted contract. 1 year, and the bond dissolves. You get the flower, save your precious alpha father, and go home. Simple. Nothing about this was simple. I took the parchment with shaking hands and unfolded it. The writing was in blood-red ink, the terms exactly as he'd stated. 1 year as his mate. Then freedom. Then the flower. But there was a clause at the bottom that made my blood run cold. 3 trials. I read aloud. To prove you're worthy, Dacian said. Fail any one of them, and the contract is void. No flower. No cure. No second chances. That's not fair. Fair. His eyes flashed silver. You came to my territory, asking me to give you one of the rarest and most powerful healing plants in existence. Did you think I'd just hand it over because you asked nicely? He leaned in close, so close his lips nearly brushed mine. Nothing in this world is fair, little moon. But I'm offering you a chance. Take it or leave it. But decide quickly. His smile turned cruel. Your father has, what, 2 days left? Less, probably, by the time you ride back to tell him you failed. Rage and desperation warred in my chest. I wanted to claw that smug expression off his face. Wanted to shift and tear into him for playing games with my father's life. But I couldn't. Because he was right. This was my only chance. Why? I demanded. Why me specifically? You could have any mate you wanted. Something flickered in his eyes. Something that looked almost like pain. Because you're moonborn, he said quietly. The wolf who dreams true. The one who sees what others can't. My blood turned to ice. How do you know about that? No one knew about my prophetic dreams. No one except my father and old Marion. I'd kept them secret my entire life, terrified of what other packs would do if they knew I could see fragments of the future. Dacian's hand came up to cup my face, his calloused thumb brushing across my cheekbone with unexpected gentleness. I know everything about you, Kira Ashwood. I know you were born under a crescent moon. I know your mother died in childbirth. I know you've been having visions since you were 16. I know you see death and destruction and futures that haven't happened yet. His eyes burned into mine. And I know that 3 nights ago, you dreamed of me. The world tilted. He was right. 3 nights ago, I dreamed of a black wolf with silver scars standing in a throne room carved from obsidian. I dreamed of storm grey eyes and a voice that promised both salvation and damnation. I dreamed of him. How? I whispered. Because I dreamed of you, too. His voice was rough, almost broken. I've been dreaming of you for months, little moon. Seeing your face. Hearing your voice. Smelling your scent. He leaned closer, his forehead nearly touching mine. The moon goddess marked you for me the moment you were born. And I've been waiting for you ever since. No. No, this couldn't be happening. We're not fated mates, I said desperately. We can't be. I'd know. I'd feel. This. He pressed his hand flat against my chest, right over my racing heart. The moment his skin touched mine, electricity shot through my entire body. My wolf threw herself against my ribs, howling one word over and over. Mate. 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 No, I breathed. Yes. His smile was both tender and terrifying. You feel it now, don't you? The pull. The recognition. Your wolf knows what you've been trying to deny. Tears burned my eyes. This wasn't how it was supposed to happen. Fated mates were supposed to be beautiful. Romantic. A gift from the moon goddess. Not this. Not a bargain with a monster. Not a contract written in blood. I need time, I said. Time to think. You don't have time. Dacian pulled back, his expression hardening. Your father is dying. Every hour you waste is an hour closer to his death. So decide, Kira. Right here. Right now. He held out a silver knife, its blade gleaming in the moonlight. Sign the contract in blood. Accept the bond. Pass my trials. Save your father. His storm grey eyes bored into mine. Or walk away and watch him die knowing you were too afraid to pay the price. My hand trembled as I stared at the knife. At the contract. At the beautiful, scarred, terrifying male who held my father's life in his hands. I thought about my father's grey skin. His clouded eyes. His whispered I love you. I thought about the pack that would die without their alpha. I thought about 19 years of love and protection and everything he'd sacrificed to raise me alone. And I knew I'd already made my choice the moment I crossed into Shadowveil territory. I took the knife. "Tell me the first trial," I said, my voice steady despite the fear clawing at my throat. Dacian's smile was devastating. "That's my girl." He gestured toward the dark forest behind him, where twisted trees created shadows so deep they looked solid. The Whisper Woods. A forest where the spirits of dead wolves hunt the living. You'll enter at midnight tomorrow and survive until dawn without shifting. Prove your mental strength. Prove you can face your fears without your wolf to protect you. My stomach dropped. "And if I fail? Then you fail everything." His expression was pitiless. "The contract is void. No second chances. No mercy." I pressed the blade to my palm and dragged it across, watching blood well up in a thin red line. Then I pressed my bloody palm to the parchment. The contract blazed with silver light, the words rearranging themselves, binding themselves to my blood, my soul, my very essence. When the light faded, new words had appeared at the top. Kira Ashwood, bonded mate to Alpha Dacian Nyx. Duration, 1 year from this day. Trials, 3. Price, everything. "It's done," Dacian said softly. He took my bleeding hand in his and brought it to his lips, his tongue darting out to taste my blood. The gesture was intimate. Possessive. It made heat flood through my entire body. "Welcome to Shadowveil, little moon," he murmured against my skin. "I promise you, the next year is going to destroy you in the best way possible." Then he shifted back into his massive black wolf, grabbed the contract in his jaws, and disappeared into the forest, leaving me alone in the darkness with my bleeding palm and the terrible knowledge that I'd just sold myself to the monster of my dreams. And the worst part, the absolutely terrifying part, my wolf was singing. Chapter 2, The Castle of Shadows. I didn't sleep that night. How could I, knowing that in 24 hours I'd be entering a forest where dead wolves hunted the living? Knowing that I'd just signed away a year of my life to a male who looked at me like I was both salvation and prey? Knowing that my wolf had recognized him as our fated mate, and there was no taking it back? When dawn finally broke, painting the sky in shades of blood and gold, I heard footsteps approaching through the forest. Not Dacian. A woman. She emerged from the trees like a ghost, her hair so white it looked silver in the early morning light, her eyes pale blue and knowing. She wore leather armor that fit her like a second skin, and twin daggers hung at her hips. "Kira Ashwood," she said, her voice surprisingly warm. "I'm Lyric, beater of the Shadowveil pack. Alpha Dacian sent me to escort you to the castle." I stood slowly, every muscle in my body protesting. I hadn't moved from the spot where Dacian had left me, too afraid that if I took one step deeper into his territory, I'd lose my nerve completely. "The castle," I repeated numbly. Lyric's smile was gentle, but her eyes were sharp. "You didn't think you'd be sleeping in the forest for a year, did you? You're the Alpha's mate now. That comes with certain accommodations." The word mate made my chest tighten. It felt too real, too permanent, despite the contract's promise of dissolution. "I'm not really his mate," I said. "It's just a bargain. 1 year, then I leave." Lyric's expression shifted into something that might have been pity. "Oh, honey. You really don't know what you've gotten yourself into, do you?" Before I could ask what she meant, she turned and started walking deeper into the forest. "Come on. We have a lot to cover before your trial tonight, and the Alpha King doesn't tolerate lateness." I grabbed my pack and followed, my hand instinctively moving to the knife at my belt. The forest grew darker as we walked, the trees pressing closer together, their branches weaving overhead like fingers interlocking. Everything here felt wrong. Too quiet. Too still. Like the forest itself was holding its breath. "The Shadowveil lands," Lyric said conversationally, as if we were discussing the weather. "They've been cursed for 300 years. Ever since Dacian's ancestor made a deal with a witch coven." My head snapped up. "What kind of deal?" "The kind that gives you power beyond measure and takes everything you love in return." She glanced back at me. "You've noticed the scars, I assume." Impossible not to. They'd covered every inch of his torso, glowing silver like they were alive. What happened to him? Lyric was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was softer. That's his story to tell. But I will say this, the Alpha King isn't looking for a mate, Kira. He's looking for a weapon. I slid down my spine. What does that mean? It means your prophetic dreams aren't just a gift. They're the reason he chose you. The reason he's been waiting for you. She stopped walking and turned to face me fully. Dacian Nyx is cursed. Every full moon, he loses control of his wolf completely. He transforms into something else. Something that kills without mercy or memory. My throat went dry. How many has he killed? Innocents. 17, over the course of 8 years. Lyric's eyes were haunted. Pack members, travelers, anyone unlucky enough to be nearby when the moon rises. He locks himself in the dungeons every full moon, but sometimes it's not enough. Then why do you stay? I whispered. Why does anyone stay in a pack led by a monster? Her smile was sad. Because the other 29 days of the month, he's the best alpha we've ever had. Fair. Protective. Willing to die for any member of his pack. The curse doesn't define him, Kira. But it is destroying him. She started walking again, and I hurried to keep up. He needs your visions, she continued. Needs to see if there's a future where he breaks the curse. Or if there's a future where he becomes too dangerous to live, and someone needs to put him down. My stomach churned. And if my visions show him that he can't be saved, then you'd better hope you can run fast. We walked in silence after that, climbing higher into the mountains. Finally, we crested a ridge, and I saw it. The castle. It rose from the mountainside like it had been carved from the stone itself, all black obsidian and sharp edges, with towers that seemed to claw at the sky. Torches burned in the windows, casting flickering orange light across the walls. It looked like something out of a nightmare. It looked like home to monsters. Welcome to Shadowkeep, Lyric said. Try not to get lost. The castle has a habit of changing its layout when it gets bored. The castle does what? But she was already walking toward the massive iron gates, which swung open silently at our approach. The interior was just as dark as the exterior. High ceilings disappeared into shadow. Torches lined the walls, but their light seemed dimmed, as if the darkness was actively fighting against it. Wolves moved through the corridors, all of them pausing to stare as Lyric led me past. I felt their eyes on me. Assessing. Judging. Wondering what the hell their alpha was thinking, bringing a stranger into their territory. Ignore them, Lyric murmured. They're not used to seeing anyone in the royal wing. Dacian doesn't entertain guests. She led me up a winding staircase, down 3 different corridors, and finally stopped in front of a heavy wooden door carved with wolves. Your room, she said, pushing it open. I stepped inside and froze. It was beautiful. The room was massive, with a 4-poster bed draped in black silk, a fireplace already crackling with warmth, and floor-to-ceiling windows that looked out over the mountains. There was a private bathroom, with running water and a tub large enough to swim in. And a wardrobe that was already filled with clothes in my size. How did he know your measurements? Lyric smiled. He's been preparing for you for months. Ever since the dreams started. She walked to the wardrobe and pulled out a set of training leathers. You'll need these. The Alpha wants to see you in the training yard in 1 hour. Training yard? You didn't think he'd send you into the Whisper Woods unprepared, did you? She tossed the leathers onto the bed. One of his conditions, remember? You train with his personal guard until the trials begin. That starts today. My head was spinning. I thought the trial was tonight. It is. Which means you have exactly, she glanced at the window, judging the sun's position, 14 hours to learn how to survive it. I'd suggest you don't waste time. She headed for the door, then paused. Oh, and Kira? One more thing. What? Her pale blue eyes met mine, deadly serious. Don't fall in love with him. The curse has already taken everything from Dacian. Don't let it take you too. Then she was gone, leaving me alone in a room fit for a queen in a castle built for nightmares. I walked to the window and looked out over the dark forest, the twisted trees, the heavy grey sky. Somewhere out there, my father was dying. Somewhere in this castle, the male who held his cure was waiting. And tonight, I'd have to walk into a forest of ghosts without my wolf to protect me. I stripped off my travel-stained clothes and put on the training leathers. They fit perfectly, hugging my body like they'd been made specifically for me. Because they had been. Dacian had been planning this. Preparing. Waiting. The thought should have terrified me. Instead, it made something warm and dangerous unfurl in my chest. I braided my silver blonde hair back from my face, checked my reflection in the mirror, pale skin, ice blue eyes, the face of my mother staring back at me. And headed for the door. Time to see what the Alpha King really wanted from me. Chapter 3, Blood and Promises. The training yard was exactly what I expected, brutal. It was a massive stone courtyard behind the castle, surrounded by high walls and filled with weapons racks, training dummies, and what looked suspiciously like bloodstains that hadn't quite washed away. A dozen wolves were already there, sparring in pairs, their movements fast and vicious. And standing in the center of it all, shirtless and magnificent, was Dacian. He was fighting 3 wolves at once. I stopped at the edge of the yard and watched, my breath catching in my throat. He moved like violence made flesh, every strike precise and devastating. One wolf lunged for his throat. Dacian caught him mid-air and slammed him into the ground hard enough to crack stone. Another attacked from behind. He spun and delivered a kick that sent the wolf flying into the wall. The third hesitated. Smart wolf. Dacian's storm-grey eyes found mine across the yard, and everything else faded away. The fighting wolves. The watching pack members. The world itself. It was just him and me and the pull between us that felt like a rope around my chest, tightening with every heartbeat. He said something to the wolves, too low for me to hear, and they scrambled away, nursing their injuries. Then he walked toward me, and I forgot how to breathe. His chest was covered in a sheen of sweat that made his scars gleam. His black hair was tied back, revealing the sharp angles of his face. And his eyes. They burned as they raked over me, taking in the training leathers that clung to my curves. "You're late," he said when he reached me. I didn't know where the training yard was, I shot back. "Your castle is a maze." His smile was slow and wicked. "Then I suppose you'll have to stay close to me. Wouldn't want you getting lost." Heat flooded my face. "Lyric said you wanted to train me." "I do." He circled me slowly, the same way he had last night, assessing. "Tell me, little moon. What do you know about fighting?" "My father taught me. I can hold my own. Against pack wolves, maybe. Against males who pull their punches because you're female." He stopped in front of me. "But in the Whisper Woods, nothing will hold back. The spirits there will find your greatest fear and tear you apart with it. Your physical strength won't matter. Your wolf won't save you." He leaned in close. "So I need to know, what are you afraid of, Kira?" The question felt like a trap. But his eyes demanded an answer. "Failing," I whispered. "Watching my father die because I wasn't strong enough to save him." Something flickered in Dacian's expression. Something that looked almost like understanding. "Good," he said softly. "Fear can be a weapon if you learn to control it. But let it control you, and you're already dead." He grabbed a wooden practice sword from a nearby rack and tossed it to me. I caught it easily. "Show me what your father taught you." I took a defensive stance, the way I'd been trained. Weight balanced. Sword ready. Eyes on my opponent. Dacian didn't move. "Attack me," he ordered. "What?" "You heard me. Attack me with everything you have. Don't hold back. Don't hesitate. Pretend I'm the thing standing between you and your father's cure." His smile turned cruel. Shouldn't be hard to imagine. Anger flared hot in my chest. He was playing games. Testing me. Treating this like a joke when my father was dying. So I attacked. I was fast, faster than most males expected. I'd learned to use my smaller size to my advantage, to slip inside their guard and strike before they could react. But Dacian wasn't most males. He sidestepped my first strike effortlessly, blocked my second, caught my wrist mid-swing and twisted, disarming me so quickly I didn't see it coming. My practice sword clattered to the ground, and suddenly I was pressed against his chest, his arm locked around my waist, his breath hot against my ear. "Predictable," he murmured. "You telegraph your moves. Lead with your shoulder. Any wolf with half a brain could see you coming." I struggled against his hold, but he was immovable. "Let me go." "Why?" "So you can attack again with the same technique and expect different results." He spun me around to face him, keeping me trapped against his body. That's the definition of insanity, little moon. His closeness was doing things to my concentration. I could smell him. Ash and midnight jasmine, wild and dark and entirely too distracting. I said let me go, I growled. His eyes flashed silver. Make me. It was a challenge. A dare. So I stopped fighting his strength and used his own weight against him. I dropped suddenly, slipping out of his hold, and swept his legs out from under him. He went down. I went down with him, somehow ending up straddling his waist, my hands pinning his wrists to the ground above his head. We stared at each other, both breathing hard. "Better," he said, his voice rough. His eyes were pure molten silver now, his wolf right there beneath the surface. "You're thinking instead of reacting. Using your brain instead of brute force. You let me win," I accused. "Did I?" His hips shifted beneath me, just slightly, and heat exploded low in my belly. I suddenly became very aware of our position. Of how his bare chest felt beneath my hands. Of how his eyes had darkened with something that had nothing to do with fighting. I scrambled off him quickly, my face burning. Dacian rose to his feet with predatory grace, not even slightly winded. "Again," he said, picking up my practice sword and tossing it back to me. "We trained for hours. He taught me how to read an opponent's body language, how to anticipate their next move. He showed me dirty tricks, eye strikes, throat punches, groin kicks. Things my father would have considered dishonorable but Dacian called survival. Honor," he said, blocking another one of my strikes, "is for wolves who can afford to lose. You can't afford to lose, Kira. Not tonight. Not ever." He was ruthless. Every time I left an opening, he exploited it. Every time I made a mistake, he punished it. My body ached, my muscles screamed, sweat poured down my spine. But I didn't quit. I couldn't. My father's life depended on me passing these trials. Finally, when the sun had moved halfway across the sky, Dacian called a halt. "Enough," he said. "You need to eat and rest before tonight." I doubled over, gasping for breath. "Is it always this brutal?" "No." He handed me a water skin. "Usually I'm harder on my trainees. But you're my mate. I'm going easy on you." I choked on the water. That was easy. His smile was devastating. "You have no idea what hard really looks like, little moon." The words were innocent, but the way he said them made my entire body flush with heat. He stepped closer, his hand coming up to brush a strand of hair back from my sweat-dampened face. "You did well today. Better than I expected." "Is that a compliment?" "It's a fact." His thumb traced along my jaw, the touch gentle despite the violence we'd just shared. "You're stronger than you know, Kira. Braver. But strength and bravery won't be enough in the Whisper Woods." His storm-grey eyes bored into mine. "The spirits will show you your worst fears. Your deepest regrets. They'll make you relive every moment you wish you could forget. And they'll use those memories to drive you mad." My throat was dry. "How do I fight that?" "You don't fight it. You survive it." He cupped my face with both hands now, his touch impossibly tender. "You hold on to the one thing that matters more than the fear. The one reason you entered those woods in the first place." "My father," I whispered. "Your father," he agreed. "Every time the fear threatens to overwhelm you, remember him. Remember why you're doing this. Let that anchor you." I wanted to ask how he knew so much about the Whisper Woods. If he'd been there. If he'd survived his own ghosts. But before I could, Lyric appeared at the edge of the training yard. "Alpha," she called. "The scouts have returned. We have a problem." Dacian's expression hardened. He dropped his hands from my face and turned toward his beater. What kind of problem? The kind that involves 3 wolves from the Silverpine pack demanding entry to Shadowveil territory. Lyric's pale eyes found mine. They're looking for Kira. My blood turned to ice. My stepbrothers. They'd come for me. Dacian's hand found mine, his fingers lacing through my own in a gesture that was both possessive and protective. Tell the guards to let them enter. But they're to be escorted directly to the throne room and not allowed to wander. You can't let them in, I said desperately. If they find me here. They already know you're here. His voice was gentle but firm. Your father sent them, didn't he? To bring you home before you did something reckless like bargain with the Alpha of Shadows. He was right. Of course he was right. My father would have sent my stepbrothers, Marcus, Finn, and Cole, the moment he discovered I was gone. They were his pride and joy, his strong sons, the wolves he'd always wished I could be. I'm not going back, I said, lifting my chin. Not without the moonblood flower. Dacian's smile was fierce and proud. Then we'll tell them that together. He started toward the castle, still holding my hand, and I had no choice but to follow. One more thing, he said as we walked. When we enter that throne room, you are my bonded mate. That means you stand at my right hand, not behind me. You face them as my equal. They'll never accept. I don't care if they accept it or not. He stopped walking and turned to face me fully. You are mine, Kira. For the next year, you belong to me, and I protect what's mine. So when we walk into that room, you will hold your head high and show them exactly who you've become. His eyes burned into mine. Show them you're not the invisible girl they ignored. Show them you're the Alpha Queen of Shadowveil. Alpha Queen. The title stole my breath. But before I could process it, Dacian was pulling me forward again, through the dark corridors of the castle, toward the throne room where my stepbrothers waited. Toward the confrontation that would either prove my strength or shatter everything I'd sacrificed to get here. My hand tightened in Dacian's grip, and he squeezed back. Just once. A promise without words. I've got you. We turned the final corner, and the massive obsidian doors of the throne room loomed before us. Behind those doors, my past was waiting. Dacian pushed them open, and we stepped inside together. Chapter 4, Blood Brothers. The throne room was carved from black obsidian, its walls reflecting torchlight like 1,000 watching eyes. The ceiling disappeared into shadow, and at the far end, 2 thrones sat on a raised dais, one large and imposing, the other slightly smaller but no less regal. Both were empty. Standing in the center of the room, flanked by Shadowveil guards, were my 3 stepbrothers. Marcus, the oldest at 23, stood in front. Tall and broad-shouldered with golden brown hair and our father's amber eyes. He'd always been the responsible one, the heir apparent, the son my father trusted with everything. Finn, 21, stood to his left. Leaner than Marcus but just as deadly, with dark hair and a cruel smile that never quite reached his eyes. He'd tormented me growing up, accidentally knocking my food to the floor, hiding my clothes, making sure I knew exactly how worthless he thought I was. And Cole, 19, barely a year older than me. The quiet one. The one who sometimes looked at me with something that might have been pity before quickly glancing away. All 3 of them froze when they saw me walk in holding Dacian's hand. Kira, Marcus breathed, his eyes widening. What have you done? Dacian didn't release my hand. Instead, he led me up the dais steps and guided me to stand beside the smaller throne, my throne, apparently before taking his own seat. The message was clear. I wasn't their invisible stepsister anymore. I was the Alpha Queen of Shadowveil. Your sister made a bargain, Dacian said, his voice echoing through the cavernous room. His tone was casual, but there was steel beneath it. One I'm more than happy to honor. She's not our sister, Finn spat, his lip curling. She's our father's bastard daughter. And she had no right to come here without permission. My hand tightened on the arm of my throne, but I kept my expression neutral. Years of practice at being invisible had taught me how to hide what I was feeling. Dacian's eyes flashed silver. Watch your tongue, wolf. You're speaking about my mate. The word mate hit the room like a thunderclap. Marcus went pale. No. That's not possible. The bond is contract bound, Dacian interrupted smoothly. 1 year, then she's free to leave. But until that year is up, Kira Ashwood belongs to me. Body, mind, and soul. The possessiveness in his voice made my wolf purr. She liked hearing him claim us. Liked the way his scent wrapped around me like armor. I hated that she liked it. Our father is dying, Cole said quietly. He'd always been the diplomatic one. Kira came here to get the moonblood flower. If you truly care about her, you'll give it to her and let her go home. I do care about her, Dacian said. Which is why I'm giving her the chance to earn it. Earn it? Marcus's voice rose. She's not a warrior. She's never even fought in a real battle. Whatever trials you're putting her through are none of your concern. Dacian's tone turned ice cold. Kira made her choice. She signed the contract willingly. What happens between my mate and me is pack business. Shadowveil pack business. She's Silverpine pack, Finn snarled. Was, I said. All three of them turned to stare at me. It was the first time I'd spoken, and my voice was steadier than I felt. I was Silverpine pack, I continued, rising from my throne. Until the Alpha sent his 3 precious sons to compete for the King's Guard and didn't even look at me. Until I spent 18 years being invisible, serving your meals, washing your clothes, pretending I didn't exist because it was easier than admitting he had a daughter who was worthless. My voice was shaking now, but not with fear. With fury. So I left. I chose to leave. And I chose to make this bargain because for the first time in my life, someone saw me as more than a mistake. Dacian's hand found mine, his fingers lacing through my own. The gesture of solidarity made my chest ache. Marcus's expression softened. Kira, I'm sorry. I didn't know it was that bad. Father never talked about me. I laughed, the sound bitter. Of course he didn't. I was the shame he hid in the shadows. The daughter who killed his true mate. That's not fair, Cole protested. Mother died in childbirth. That wasn't your fault. Tell that to father, I shot back. Tell that to the male who couldn't bear to look at me for 19 years because I reminded him of what he lost. Silence fell over the throne room. Finn was the one who broke it. So what, you're just going to stay here? Play house with the Scarred King for a year while father dies? Father won't die. I lifted my chin. Because I'm going to pass the trials. I'm going to earn the moonblood flower. And I'm going to save his life, even though he never once treated me like I was worth saving. The trials, Marcus said slowly, his gaze shifting to Dacian. What trials? That's between me and my mate, Dacian said. But I saw something flicker in his eyes. Respect, maybe. Or approval. The first one is tonight, I said, making the decision in that moment. They'd come all this way. They deserved to know. The Whisper Woods. I have to survive from midnight to dawn without shifting. All 3 of them went white. You can't, Marcus whispered. Kira, those woods are. I know what they are. I met his eyes steadily. And I'm doing it anyway. You'll die, Finn said flatly. The spirits will tear you apart. Maybe. I shrugged. But at least I'll die trying to save our father instead of standing around arguing about whether I have the right to try. The barb hit home. Finn's jaw clenched, his hands curling into fists. There has to be another way, Cole said desperately. Some other cure, some other. There isn't. Dacian's voice was final. The moonblood flower is the only thing that can purge bloodbane poison mixed with witch magic. And it only grows in one place in all the territories, my private gardens, which are warded against anyone but me. He leaned forward, his elbows resting on his knees, his storm-grey eyes locked on my stepbrothers. So here's what's going to happen. You 3 are going to return to Silverpine and tell your Alpha that his daughter is exactly where she needs to be. You're going to tell him that she's strong, brave, and more than capable of handling herself. His voice dropped to a growl. And if I hear that any of you tried to stop her, tried to drag her back, tried to interfere with the trials in any way, I will personally hunt you down and show you exactly why they call me the Scarred King. The threat hung in the air like a blade. Marcus swallowed hard. We just want her safe. Then trust her to keep herself safe, Dacian said. She's not a child. She's not weak. She's a wolf who's been underestimated her entire life, and she's finally getting the chance to prove what she's capable of. He stood, and the movement was so fluid, so predatory, that all three of my stepbrothers took an involuntary step back. Now leave my territory before I forget that you're guests and treat you like the trespassers you are. Lyric appeared from the shadows. I hadn't even seen her enter and gestured toward the door. This way, gentlemen. Marcus looked at me one last time. Kira, please. Come home. I will, I said softly. In a year. With the flower. With proof that I'm more than the invisible girl you ignored. Something that might have been guilt flashed across his face. Then he turned and followed Lyric out, Finn and Cole trailing behind him. The moment the doors closed, I sagged against my throne, all the strength draining out of me. Dacian was beside me instantly, his hand steadying me. Breathe, little moon. I can't believe I just did that, I whispered. You were magnificent. His thumb brushed across my cheek, wiping away a tear I hadn't realized had fallen. You stood your ground. Claimed your power. Made them see you. I laughed shakily. I think I mostly just made them think I've lost my mind. Good. Let them underestimate you. It'll make your victory that much sweeter. He pulled me to my feet and into his arms, and I let myself lean against his chest, breathing in his scent, letting it calm my racing heart. Thank you, I murmured against his skin. For backing me up. For not letting them take me. I told you, Kira. You're mine now. I protect what's mine. The possessiveness should have bothered me. Instead, it made me feel safe. We stood there for a long moment, wrapped in each other, the throne room silent around us. Finally, Dacian pulled back just enough to look down at me. You need to rest. The trial begins in 8 hours, and you'll need all your strength. I don't think I can sleep. Then I'll stay with you. His storm grey eyes were impossibly soft. Until it's time. Chapter 5. Ghosts of the Past. Dacian kept his word. He stayed with me in my room, sitting in the chair by the fireplace while I lay on the massive bed, staring at the ceiling and trying not to think about what was coming. We didn't talk much. We didn't need to. His presence was enough. Knowing he was there, watching over me, keeping the darkness at bay. When the sun finally set and twilight painted the sky in shades of purple and black, Lyric knocked on the door. It's time, she said quietly. My stomach dropped. Dacian rose from his chair and came to stand beside the bed. Remember what I taught you. Remember why you're doing this. My father, I whispered. Your father, he agreed. Then, softer, and yourself. Prove to yourself that you're more than they made you believe. He helped me to my feet, and together we walked through the castle and out into the night. The Whisper Woods loomed at the base of the mountain, a wall of twisted trees and unnatural shadow. Even from a distance, I could feel it. The wrongness. The hunger. A crowd had gathered, Shadowveil pack members, come to witness the trial. I saw Lyric standing at the front, her pale eyes worried but hopeful. Dacian led me to the edge of the forest, where a line of silver powder marked the boundary. Once you cross this line, he said, the trial begins. You cannot shift. You cannot call for help. You must survive on your own until dawn breaks. I nodded, my throat too tight to speak. He cupped my face in his hands, his thumbs brushing across my cheekbones. You can do this, Kira. I know you can. How do you know? Because you're my mate. His smile was fierce. And the moon goddess doesn't make mistakes. Then he kissed me. It was brief, barely a brush of lips, but it sent electricity racing through my entire body. My wolf howled, throwing herself against my ribs, begging for more. When he pulled back, his eyes were molten silver. Come back to me, little moon, he whispered. Then he stepped away, and I was alone. I took a deep breath, squared my shoulders, and crossed the silver line. The moment my foot touched the other side, the world changed. The sounds of the watching pack vanished. The moonlight dimmed. The air turned thick and cold, like breathing through water. And the whispers began. Worthless. Mistake. Unloved. They came from everywhere and nowhere, sliding through my mind like knives. I kept walking, deeper into the forest, my hands clenched into fists. Just survive until dawn. That's all I had to do. The trees pressed closer, their branches reaching out like skeletal fingers. Shadows moved at the edges of my vision, shapes that looked almost like wolves but wrong, twisted, their eyes glowing with hunger. You killed her, the whispers said. Your mother. She died screaming your name. She died in childbirth, I said aloud, my voice shaking. It wasn't my fault. Wasn't it? If you'd never been born, she'd still be alive. Your father would still have his mate. He'd still be happy. I pressed my hands over my ears, but it didn't help. The voices were inside my head. A figure materialized in front of me. My mother. I knew it wasn't real. Knew it was just a spirit, a manifestation of my guilt. But she looked so real. Silver blonde hair like mine. Ice blue eyes like mine. Beautiful and young and so sad. Why did you kill me, Kira? She asked, her voice breaking. I didn't, I whispered. I didn't mean to. I was supposed to have a son. A strong son to carry on the bloodline. Instead, I got you. She stepped closer. Weak. Worthless. A daughter who can't even shift in front of her own pack. That's not true. Isn't it? Look at you. Hiding what you are. Pretending to be something you're not. You're pathetic. Tears streamed down my face, but I forced myself to stand tall. You're not real. You're just fear. Just guilt. I'm the truth, my mother said. The truth you've been running from your whole life. You don't deserve to be loved. You don't deserve to be saved. You deserve to die alone in these woods, just like you made me die alone in that birthing bed. The words hit like physical blows. But then I remembered Dacian's hands on my face. His fierce eyes. His absolute certainty. You can do this. I closed my eyes and thought of my father. His grey skin. His clouded eyes. His whispered I love you. I'm not doing this for myself, I said, opening my eyes. I'm doing this for him. For the male who raised me alone, who taught me to fight, who loved me even when it hurt. My mother's image flickered. And maybe I am pathetic, I continued, my voice growing stronger. Maybe I am weak and worthless and a mistake. But I'm still here. Still fighting. Still trying. The forest around me began to shift, new shapes emerging from the shadows. My stepbrothers, their faces twisted with disgust. My father, turning away from me like he had 1,000 times. Every wolf who'd ever looked through me like I didn't exist. They circled me, whispering, taunting, showing me every moment I'd ever felt small and invisible and worthless. And I let them. I let the pain wash over me. Let the memories cut deep. Let myself feel every bit of the loneliness and rejection I'd carried for 19 years. Then I let it go. You don't control me anymore, I said to the spirits, to the ghosts, to the manifestations of my own broken heart. I'm not that invisible girl. Not anymore. I thought of Dacian calling me magnificent. Of standing beside him on that throne. Of the way he looked at me like I mattered. I am Kira Ashwood, I said, my voice ringing through the forest. Daughter of Alpha Marcus. Bonded mate to Alpha Dacian Nyx. And I am more than the sum of your cruelty. The spirits screamed. The forest convulsed. And then, as suddenly as it had begun, everything went still. The whispers stopped. The shapes vanished. The oppressive weight lifted. I stood alone in a clearing, surrounded by silent trees, and overhead, the sky was beginning to lighten. Dawn. I'd survived. A howl echoed through the forest, Dacian's howl, triumphant and proud. The silver boundary line appeared in front of me, and I crossed it on shaking legs. The moment I stepped over, strong arms caught me. Dacian pulled me against his chest, his heart pounding beneath my cheek. You did it, he said roughly. You survived. I couldn't speak. Could barely breathe. All I could do was cling to him while the Shadowveil pack erupted in cheers around us. One trial down, Dacian murmured against my hair. 2 to go. I pulled back just enough to look up at him. His eyes were blazing with pride and something else. Something that looked terrifyingly like affection. What's the second trial? I asked. His smile was slow and dangerous. You'll find out tomorrow, little moon. But first. He scooped me up in his arms, ignoring my startled yelp, and started carrying me back toward the castle. First, you rest. You eat. You let me take care of you. I can walk, I protested weakly. I know you can. His grip tightened possessively. But you're mine, and I take care of what's mine. The pack parted before us as he carried me through the castle gates, their eyes respectful now instead of skeptical. I'd proven myself. Not as someone's daughter or sister or mistake. As myself. As Kira. Dacian carried me all the way to my room and laid me gently on the bed. Then he pulled a chair close and sat down, clearly intending to stay. You don't have to, I started. Sleep, Kira, he interrupted softly. I'll be here when you wake. And despite everything, the fear, the exhaustion, the emotional devastation of facing my demons, I believed him. I closed my eyes, and for the first time in years, I felt safe enough to truly rest. Because the Alpha of Shadows was keeping watch. And nothing, not even my own ghosts, would touch me while he stood guard. Chapter 6, The Second Trial. I woke to sunlight streaming through the windows and the smell of food. Real food. Roasted meat, fresh bread, something sweet that made my stomach growl despite the exhaustion still clinging to my bones. Dacian sat in the same chair he'd occupied when I fell asleep, but now a table had been brought in, laden with enough breakfast to feed 5 wolves. You're awake, he said, his storm-grey eyes tracking my movement as I sat up. Good. You need to eat. What time is it? My voice was rough from sleep and screaming at ghosts all night. Midday. You slept for 6 hours. He stood and brought a plate to the bed, piled high with food. Eat. All of it. I took the plate, suddenly ravenous. The moment the first bite of meat hit my tongue, I realized I hadn't eaten since yesterday morning. My body was running on nothing but adrenaline and fear. Dacian watched me eat with an intensity that should have made me uncomfortable. Instead, it felt protective. Like he was making sure I took care of myself because he knew I wouldn't otherwise. The pack is talking about you, he said after a few minutes. I swallowed. Bad things. Impressed things. A smile tugged at his lips. No one survived the Whisper Woods without shifting in over a decade. The last wolf who tried came out screaming and never spoke again. My hand froze halfway to my mouth. You didn't tell me that part. Would it have changed your decision? I thought about my father's grey skin, his dying eyes. No. Then it didn't matter. He leaned forward, his elbows resting on his knees. You faced your demons, Kira. Not everyone has the courage to do that. I didn't feel courageous. I felt terrified. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's doing what needs to be done despite the fear. His eyes burned into mine. You were magnificent. Heat flooded my cheeks. I focused on my food to avoid his gaze, but I could feel him watching me, could feel the weight of his attention like a physical touch. What's the second trial? I asked, needing to break the tension. Dacian's expression shifted, something dark flickering through his eyes. Combat. My stomach dropped. Against who? My champion. He stood and walked to the window, his back to me. You'll fight in the arena tomorrow at dawn. No weapons. Just teeth and claws and instinct. But I thought I couldn't shift during the trials. That was the first trial. Testing your mental strength, your ability to endure without your wolf. He turned to face me. The second trial tests your physical strength. How well you and your wolf work together. How fierce you are when everything is on the line. I set down my plate, my appetite suddenly gone. Who's your champion? Lyric. Of course. The white-haired beater with knowing eyes and twin daggers. The female who'd warned me that Dacian was looking for a weapon, not a mate. She'll kill me, I said flatly. She'll try. Dacian crossed back to me and knelt beside the bed, bringing us eye to eye. But you won't let her. Because you're stronger than you think, Kira. Your wolf is fierce. I've seen her in your eyes, felt her in your scent. She's been caged too long, hidden away like a dirty secret. His hand found mine. Tomorrow, you let her free. You show the entire pack what you really are. My throat tightened. What if I'm not strong enough? What if Lyric? Then you get back up and fight harder. His voice was steel wrapped in silk. You don't stop. You don't quit. You fight like your father's life depends on it, because it does. He stood, pulling me to my feet with him. Finish eating. Then meet me in the training yard. We have one day to prepare you, and I'm not wasting a second of it. The training was brutal. Dacian didn't hold back, didn't go easy on me because I'd spent all night facing my demons. If anything, he pushed harder, forcing me to react faster, strike harder, think quicker. Lyric is fast, he said, circling me in the training yard. Faster than any wolf you've ever fought. She'll come at you from angles you don't expect, exploit weaknesses you didn't know you had. He lunged without warning. I barely dodged, his hand grazing my shoulder hard enough to spin me around. Before I could recover, he was behind me, his arm locked around my throat in a chokehold. Dead, he murmured against my ear. She'll go for your throat first. It's her signature move. How do you counter? I struggled against his hold, but he was immovable. My wolf snarled inside me, furious at being trapped, desperate to break free. Stop thinking like a human, Dacian growled. Your wolf knows what to do. Let her show you. I closed my eyes and reached for her. The silver-furred wolf I'd kept hidden for 3 years. She surged forward eagerly, and I felt the shift beginning. No. Dacian released me instantly. Not yet. You need to learn to use her instincts without fully shifting. Feel what she would do, then translate it into human form. I steadied my breathing and tried again. This time, instead of fighting his strength, I dropped my weight suddenly and twisted, using his own momentum to throw him off balance. The moment his hold loosened, I drove my elbow back into his ribs and spun away. Dacian's smile was fierce. Better. Again. We trained until my muscles screamed and sweat poured down my spine. He taught me how to read Lyric's fighting style, how to anticipate her moves, how to turn her speed against her. She relies on quick strikes and retreats, he explained, demonstrating with precise movements. Never stays in one place long enough to be hit. So you need to cut off her escape routes, corner her, force her to fight on your terms. How am I supposed to corner someone faster than me? By being smarter. He tapped my forehead. Strength isn't everything, Kira. Sometimes the wolf who wins is the one who thinks 3 moves ahead. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of blood and gold, Dacian called a halt. Enough, he said. You need to rest before tomorrow. I doubled over, gasping for breath. Will I win? He was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was soft. I don't know. Lyric is the best fighter I've ever trained. She's never lost a challenge. My heart sank. But, he continued, stepping closer, she's never fought someone with as much to lose as you do. Desperation makes wolves dangerous, Kira. And you're the most desperate wolf I've ever met. His hand cupped my cheek, tilting my face up to meet his gaze. Win or lose, you've already proven yourself to me. You've already shown this pack that you're not the invisible girl they expected. Tomorrow is just confirmation. Confirmation that I'm worthy of the moonblood flower, I said bitterly. Worthy of saving my father. No. His thumb brushed across my lower lip, the touch sending sparks racing through my body. Confirmation that you were always worthy. You just needed the chance to prove it. He leaned down, his forehead resting against mine, and for a moment we just breathed together, our hearts beating in sync. I should go, I whispered, not wanting to move. Rest, like you said. You should. But he didn't step back. Didn't release me. Instead, he kissed me. Not the brief, barely there kiss from before the first trial. This was real. deep, claiming. His lips moved against mine with a hunger that made my knees weak, his hand sliding into my hair, angling my head to deepen the kiss. My wolf howled in triumph, and I kissed him back just as desperately, my hands fisting in his shirt, pulling him closer. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, his eyes were pure molten silver. That, he said roughly, was for luck. Then he stepped back, putting distance between us before I could respond. Go rest, little moon. Tomorrow, you show them what you're made of. I didn't sleep well that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Lyric's pale blue gaze, imagined her speed, her precision, her absolute confidence that she would win. Just before dawn, I gave up on sleep and walked to the window. The arena was visible from my room, a circular stone pit surrounded by raised seating where the pack would gather to watch. In the center, 2 wolves would fight until one submitted or died. I pressed my hand against the cool glass and tried not to think about what death would mean. Not just for me, but for my father. For the pack that would die without their alpha. A knock on the door made me turn. Lyric stood in the doorway, dressed in simple training clothes, her white hair braided back from her face. Can't sleep either, she asked. I shook my head. She stepped inside and closed the door behind her. For a moment, we just looked at each other, the challenger and the champion. I wanted to talk to you, she said quietly. Before it starts. To tell me I'm going to lose. To tell you I'm sorry. Her pale eyes were genuine. This isn't personal, Kira. I don't hate you. I actually like you. But I have my orders, and I follow them. Orders to kill me. Orders to test you. She crossed to stand beside me at the window. Dacian needs to know you can survive what's coming. The trials aren't just about earning the moonblood flower. They're about proving you can handle being his mate. I turned to face her fully. What do you mean? Lyric was quiet for a long moment, her gaze distant. Every full moon, Dacian transforms into something else. Something that doesn't recognize friend from foe. His killed pack members, Lyric. Innocents. People he loved. She looked at me, and I saw the pain in her eyes. His killed me. Twice. I survived because I'm strong enough, fast enough to get away before he lands a killing blow. But not everyone is. My blood turned to ice. Why are you telling me this? Because if you become his true mate, not contract-bound but fully bonded, you'll be there during those transformations. You'll be the one trying to anchor his humanity. And if you're not strong enough, if you can't defend yourself. She didn't need to finish the sentence. So tomorrow isn't about the flower, I said slowly. It's about proving I can survive him. Exactly. Lyric's smile was sad. Dacian cares about you, Kira. More than he's cared about anyone in years. But he's terrified that he'll hurt you. That the curse will take you like it's taken everyone else he's ever loved. She reached out and squeezed my hand. So show him tomorrow that you're strong enough. Show him you can take everything he throws at you and still stand. Because that's the only way he'll ever believe you're safe with him. Then she turned and left, leaving me alone with the rising sun and the terrible knowledge of what I was really fighting for. Not just my father's life, but Dacian's heart. Chapter 7, Blood in the Arena. The arena was packed. Every member of the Shadowveil pack had turned out to watch, their faces eager with anticipation. This wasn't just a trial anymore. It was entertainment. A spectacle. 2 females fighting to the death for the Alpha King's favor. I stood in the entrance tunnel, my heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. I'd stripped down to simple leather pants and a wrapped chest binding, leaving my arms and back bare. No armor. No protection. Just skin and bone and whatever strength I could find. Across the arena, Lyric emerged from the opposite tunnel. She looked like a warrior goddess, all lean muscle and deadly grace, her white hair gleaming in the morning sun. She rolled her shoulders, loosening up, completely at ease. She'd done this 100 times before. I'd never fought in front of an audience in my life. Dacian appeared on the raised platform overlooking the arena, and the crowd fell silent. He looked every inch the Alpha King, powerful, commanding, absolutely in control. But when his eyes found mine, I saw the worry beneath the composure. The fear. He didn't want to watch this. Didn't want to see me hurt. But he needed to know I could survive. The second trial, his voice rang out across the arena, tests the physical strength of the challenger. Kira Ashwood will face my champion, Beta Lyric, in single combat. The fight ends when one fighter submits or is unable to continue. His eyes locked on mine. Begin. The word had barely left his lips when Lyric shifted. Her transformation was seamless, one moment woman, the next a massive white wolf with ice blue eyes and teeth like knives. She was beautiful and terrifying, and she was already moving. Fast. So impossibly fast. I shifted just as she reached me, my silver wolf erupting free after 3 years of being hidden. The crowd gasped, they'd never seen my wolf before, hadn't known I could shift. Good. Let them underestimate me. Lyric's jaws snapped closed where my throat had been a heartbeat before. I twisted away, using my smaller size to slip beneath her guard, and raked my claws across her ribs. First blood. Mine. She snarled and spun, her massive paws catching me across the shoulder hard enough to send me flying. I hit the stone wall of the arena and tasted blood. The crowd roared. I staggered to my feet, shaking off the impact. Lyric was already coming at me again, relentless, giving me no time to recover. She was testing me, seeing how much punishment I could take. I ducked under her next strike and went for her legs, trying to throw her off balance. But she anticipated the move, leaping over me and landing behind me in one fluid motion. Her teeth found the back of my neck. Pain exploded through me as her jaws clamped down, not hard enough to kill but hard enough to make the message clear. I could end this anytime I want. My wolf howled in fury. We were stronger than this. Faster than this. We'd been caged for too long, underestimated for too long. No more. I twisted in her grip, ignoring the pain, and sank my own teeth into her foreleg. She yelped and released me, stumbling back. We circled each other, both bleeding now, both breathing hard. Good, Lyric's voice echoed in my mind through the pack link. You're stronger than you look. But strength isn't enough. She attacked again, and this time I was ready. I remembered what Dacian had taught me: anticipate, don't react. Think 3 moves ahead. Lyric relied on speed and quick strikes. So I stopped trying to match her speed and focused on cutting off her escape routes instead. When she lunged, I didn't dodge. I planted my feet and met her head-on, using my lower center of gravity to drive upward into her chest. The impact sent us both sprawling, but I recovered first. I was on her before she could stand, my jaws closing around her throat. Not hard enough to kill. Just hard enough to make the point. Submit. The crowd went deadly silent. Lyric's ice blue eyes met mine, and I saw respect there. Acknowledgement. You win, she said through the pack link. I released her and stepped back, shifting back to human form. My body was covered in cuts and bruises, blood dripping from a dozen wounds, but I was standing. I'd won. The crowd erupted in cheers, but I barely heard them. My eyes found Dacian on the platform, and the expression on his face stole my breath. Pride. Relief. And something that looked terrifyingly like love. He descended from the platform in 3 long strides and crossed the arena to me, not caring that the entire pack was watching, not caring that I was covered in blood and sweat and dirt. He pulled me into his arms and held me like I was the most precious thing in the world. You did it, he said roughly against my hair. You magnificent, fierce, impossible wolf. You did it. I clung to him, my legs suddenly too weak to hold me up. 2 trials down. 2 trials down, he confirmed. Then, quieter, 1 to go. He pulled back just enough to look down at me, his hand cupping my bruised face with impossible gentleness. The 3rd trial, he said, and I saw fear flicker through his eyes. It's the most dangerous. The most impossible. Tell me, I whispered. His thumb brushed across my split lip, and when he spoke, his voice was barely audible beneath the roar of the celebrating crowd. You have to survive me. Chapter 8. The Curse Revealed. Dacian carried me back to the castle despite my protests, his grip possessive and protective as he shouldered through the celebrating crowd. Lyric followed behind us, limping slightly but grinning. "You fight dirty," she said approvingly. "I like that. You tried to rip my throat out," I pointed out. "And you went for my legs like a smart wolf instead of trying to overpower me." She laughed. "Dacian taught you well." He said nothing, his jaw tight, his eyes distant. The fear I'd seen in the arena hadn't faded. If anything, it had grown stronger. Something was wrong. He carried me to my room and set me down gently on the bed. "Lyric, get the healer. Kira needs." "I'm fine," I interrupted. "They're just scratches. They're deep wounds that need cleaning before they get infected." His tone left no room for argument. "Lyric. Now." The beater disappeared without another word, leaving us alone. Dacian paced to the window, his hands clenched into fists, his entire body radiating tension. The silence stretched between us, heavy with unspoken words. "What did you mean?" I asked finally. "That I have to survive you." He didn't turn around. "The third trial happens during the full moon, which is tomorrow night." My blood turned to ice. "Your curse." "My curse," he confirmed, his voice flat. "Every full moon, I transform into something that isn't wolf and isn't man. Something that has no humanity, no recognition, no control. Just rage and hunger and the need to destroy." He finally turned to face me, and the devastation in his eyes made my chest ache. "I've killed 17 innocents, Kira. Pack members who were in the wrong place at the wrong time. Travelers who wandered too close to my territory. A child once, a little girl who..." His voice broke. I woke up the next morning covered in her blood, and I didn't even remember doing it. I wanted to go to him, to hold him, but the raw pain on his face kept me frozen. "That's why the trials," I said slowly, understanding dawning. "That's why you needed to know I was strong mentally and physically. Because the third trial is surviving you when you're cursed." "Yes." He moved to the bed and knelt beside it, taking my hands in his. His grip was gentle despite the violence he'd just described. "I need to know that if we become truly bonded, if you choose to stay beyond the contract, you can survive my worst. Because I couldn't bear it if I..." He couldn't finish the sentence. "If you killed me," I finished for him. He flinched like I'd struck him. "I've been searching for a way to break the curse for 8 years. Consulted every witch, every seer, every ancient text I could find. They all said the same thing." "What did they say?" His storm-grey eyes met mine. "That the curse can only be broken by someone who sees through the monster to the man beneath. Someone whose love is stronger than dark magic." My breath caught. "A fated mate." "A fated mate," he confirmed. "But it's not enough for us to just be matched by the moon goddess. You have to survive the curse. You have to face me at my absolute worst and choose not to run. Choose not to kill me to save yourself. Choose to see me, the real me, buried beneath the rage." His hands tightened on mine. "If you can do that, if you can reach me during the transformation and bring me back, the curse breaks. But if you can't..." "I die," I whispered. "You die. And I live with another death on my hands, knowing I killed the one person the moon goddess made for me." The healer arrived then, an elderly female with silver hair and gentle hands. She cleaned my wounds in silence while Dacian watched with the intensity of a predator guarding injured prey. When she finished and left, I finally found my voice. "What happens during the trial?" Specifically, Dacian rose and walked to a cabinet, pulling out a rolled parchment. He spread it on the bed, a detailed diagram of what looked like an underground chamber. "The transformation begins at moonrise," he explained. "I'll already be locked in the dungeon, in a chamber specifically designed to contain me. Iron bars reinforced with silver, walls carved with containment runes. It's held me every full moon for 8 years." He pointed to a smaller chamber adjacent to the main one. "You'll enter through this passage and seal yourself inside this room. There's a window between the chamber's iron bars, too narrow for me to fit through but wide enough for you to see me, speak to me." His finger traced the space between the 2 rooms. "Your task is simple, survive until dawn without leaving that chamber, And while you're there, try to reach my humanity. Try to call me back from the curse. And if I succeed, the curse breaks. We both walk out free. And if I fail, his expression went dark. If the curse takes you, if I somehow get through those bars, you have to kill me. There's a silver dagger in your chamber, blessed by the moon priestesses. One strike to the heart will end it. I'm not going to kill you, I said immediately. You might have to. His voice was steel. Because if you don't, I'll kill you and everyone else in this castle. The curse will spread beyond the dungeon, and I'll slaughter my entire pack before the dawn breaks. The weight of it crashed over me. This wasn't just about proving my strength. It was about choosing between my life and his, between saving myself and saving everyone in Shadowveil. There has to be another way, I said desperately. Some other cure, some. There isn't. He cupped my face with both hands, his touch achingly gentle. I've looked, Kira. For 8 years, I've searched. This is the only chance. Then I'll do it. The words came out steadier than I felt. I'll reach you. I'll break the curse. You don't know what you're promising, he said roughly. You haven't seen me during the transformation. I'm not anything you'd recognize. I'm a monster, Kira. A true monster. I've seen monsters, I countered. I've faced my own demons in the Whisper Woods. I've fought your champion and won. Whatever you become during that full moon, it's not worse than the ghosts I've already survived. You can't know that. Then show me. I grabbed his wrists, holding his hands against my face. Show me what you become. Let me see it now, before the trial, so I know what I'm facing. Something flickered in his eyes, hope and fear warring for dominance. There's a record, he said slowly. From the last full moon. One of my guards recorded it with a scrying stone. The images are graphic. Show me, I repeated. He hesitated for one more moment, then nodded. He pulled a small crystal from his pocket, a scrying stone, glowing faintly with captured magic. Watch, he said, setting it on the bed between us. And understand what you're agreeing to face. The crystal flared, and images appeared in the air above it. The first thing I saw was the dungeon chamber. Exactly as he'd described. Iron bars. Stone walls. Runes glowing silver in the darkness. Then Dacian appeared, already chained to the center of the room. Heavy iron shackles bound his wrists and ankles, connecting to chains bolted into the floor. He was shirtless, his scars glowing brighter than I'd ever seen them. It's starting, his voice said through the recording. He was talking to someone off-screen. Get out. Seal the door. Don't come back until dawn no matter what you hear. Then the screaming began. I watched in horror as Dacian's body convulsed, his back arching, his muscles bulging and twisting in ways that shouldn't be possible. The scars on his skin began to split open, glowing silver light pouring out of them like wounds. His bones cracked and reformed. His face elongated. His hands became claws. But he didn't become a wolf. He became something else entirely. The creature that emerged from Dacian's transformation was massive. Easily twice the size of his wolf form. It had the body of a wolf but twisted, wrong, with too many joints in its legs, too many teeth in its elongated jaws. Its eyes burned pure white, empty of any recognition or humanity. And the rage. Even through the recording, I could feel the rage rolling off it in waves. Pure, mindless, destructive fury. The creature threw itself against the chains, howling in a voice that sounded like 1,000 wolves screaming in agony. It pulled and twisted and fought until blood poured from its wrists and ankles where the iron cut deep. It didn't stop. Didn't tire. It fought for hours, its white eyes fixed on the sealed door, desperately trying to reach whatever it sensed beyond. Trying to kill. At one point, it noticed the scrying stone. It stared directly at it, directly at me across time, and I saw nothing in those eyes. No Dacian. No man. No soul. Just emptiness and hunger. The recording ended with the creature still fighting its chains as dawn began to break. Only then did it start to change back, shrinking and reforming until Dacian lay unconscious on the stone floor, covered in blood and wounds that would scar even deeper. The crystal went dark. I sat in silence, my hands shaking, my mind struggling to process what I'd just seen. That's what I become, Dacian said quietly. That's what you'll face tomorrow night. So tell me now, Kira. Can you really look at that thing and see me? I thought about my father dying. I thought about the moonblood flower. I thought about everything I'd sacrificed to get here. But more than that, I thought about the way Dacian had looked at me in the arena. The way he'd held me after the trial. The way his hands shook when he touched me, like he was afraid I'd break. I thought about the mail beneath the curse, and I made my choice. Yes, I said, meeting his storm grey eyes. I can see you. Because that thing in the recording isn't who you are. It's what was done to you. And I'm going to help you break free of it. You could die. I could. I reached out and took his hand, lacing my fingers through his. But I could also save you. And isn't that worth the risk? Dacian stared at me for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then he pulled me into his arms and held me so tight I could barely breathe. I don't deserve you, he whispered against my hair. Probably not, I agreed, making him laugh despite everything. But the moon goddess gave me to you anyway. So you're stuck with me. He pulled back just enough to look down at me, and the emotion in his eyes made my chest ache. If you survive tomorrow night, he said, his voice rough, if you break the curse and we both walk out of that dungeon alive, I'm never letting you go. Contract or no contract, year or no year. You'll be mine forever, Kira Ashwood. Do you understand? My heart hammered against my ribs. And if I fail? His jaw clenched. Then I hope you're fast enough with that silver dagger. Because I'd rather die than live knowing I killed you. He kissed me then, desperate and fierce, like he was trying to memorize the taste of me before it was too late. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, the sun was setting outside the window. One more day. One more night. Then I'd face the monster and pray I was strong enough to find the man. Chapter 9. The Full Moon. I didn't see Dacian the next day. Lyric explained that he'd locked himself in his chambers, preparing for the transformation. Meditating. Trying to hold on to his humanity as long as possible before the moon rose and took it all away. I spent the day in my room, pacing, trying not to think about the creature I'd seen in the recording. Trying not to imagine those white eyes staring at me through the iron bars. As the sun began to set, Lyric came to collect me. It's time, she said quietly. She led me down through the castle, deeper and deeper into the mountain until we reached the dungeons. The air here was cold and damp, the stone walls carved with protective runes that glowed faintly in the torchlight. We stopped in front of a massive iron door. He's already inside, Lyric said. Already chained. The transformation will begin the moment the moon rises, which is in about 10 minutes. She handed me a small silver dagger, its blade inscribed with moon runes. You know what this is for. I took it with trembling hands. I won't need it. I hope you're right. She squeezed my shoulder. You're braver than anyone I've ever met, Kira. Whatever happens in there, know that you've already proven yourself to this pack. To me. To him. Then she opened the door and gestured me inside. The chamber was exactly as I'd seen in the recording. The main room was large, the center dominated by a heavy iron chain system. And there, already bound, was Dacian. He was on his knees, his wrists and ankles shackled, his head bowed. His scars were already beginning to glow, pulsing with silver light. Kira, he said without looking up. You shouldn't be here. Too late for that. I walked past him to the smaller chamber, my cage for the night. It was tiny, barely large enough to stand and turn around, with iron bars separating me from the main room. I stepped inside and pulled the door closed. It locked automatically with a heavy click. No way out until dawn. There's still time to change your mind, Dacian said, finally looking up at me. His eyes were already shifting, the grey darkening to something closer to white. Lyric can let you out. You can watch from outside the dungeon where it's safe. I'm not leaving you. I pressed my hands against the bars between us. I'm going to reach you, Dacian. I'm going to break this curse. And if you can't, I touched the silver dagger at my belt. Then I'll do what needs to be done. He closed his eyes, pain etched across his face. I'm sorry. For bringing you into this. For making you face. Stop. I cut him off. You didn't make me do anything. I chose this. I chose you. His eyes snapped open, burning with intensity. Why? Why would you choose a cursed monster when you could have chosen freedom? Because somewhere between the trials and the training and the moments of unexpected gentleness, I'd started to care about him. Started to see past the scars and the reputation and the fear. Started to fall. But I couldn't say that. Not now. Not when we might both die in the next few hours. So instead, I said, because you see me. The real me. Not the invisible girl or the alpha's shame or the mistake. Just, me. Something that looked like wonder crossed his face. Kira. Outside, a wolf howled. Answering howls echoed through the castle. The full moon had risen. Dacian's back arched, his eyes going wide. It's starting. Kira, please. If I get through these bars, if I reach you. You won't, I said firmly. I won't let you. The transformation began. It was worse than the recording. So much worse. I watched as the male I'd started to care about was torn apart from the inside out, his body twisting and breaking and reforming into something that shouldn't exist. His screams echoed off the stone walls, inhuman and agonized. The scars on his skin split open, silver light pouring out like blood. And when the transformation finally completed, the creature that remained looked at me with those empty white eyes and smiled. It was a terrible smile. Predatory. Hungry. Little moon, it said in a voice like gravel and death. I can smell your fear. It wasn't Dacian. The voice was wrong. The eyes were wrong. Everything was wrong. But I forced myself to stand tall, to meet those white eyes without flinching. I'm not afraid of you, I lied. Liar. It prowled closer to the bars, its two long limbs moving in ways that made my skin crawl. Your heart is racing. Your hands are shaking. You want to run. I'm not running. You will. It pressed against the bars, testing their strength. When I tear through these chains, when I break through this iron, when I rip you apart piece by piece, you'll run. They always run. Dacian, I said, ignoring the creature's words. I know you're in there. I know you can hear me. The creature laughed. Dacian is gone. There's only me now. Only hunger. Only rage. It slammed against the bars hard enough to make them rattle. I jumped back despite myself. There it is, the creature purred. Fear. Delicious. When I finally reach you, little moon, I'm going to savor every scream. My hand found the silver dagger at my belt. One strike to the heart. That's all it would take. But I couldn't do it. Not yet. Not without trying. Tell me about the curse, I said, desperate to find some connection, some crack in the monster's armor. Tell me what they did to you. The creature went still. Why? Because I want to understand. Because Dacian is my mate, and I want to know what has survived. For just a moment, something flickered in those white eyes. Something that might have been pain. They chained me, it said, and the voice was different now. Less monster, more, broken. When I was 7 years old. The witches chained me in a room like this and bled me. Over and over. Harvesting my alpha blood for their dark magic. My throat tightened. How long? 3 years. The creature's claws scraped against the bars. 3 years of chains and silver and pain. Until I was strong enough to break free and kill them all. But the curse remained, I whispered. The curse remains. It looked at me with those empty eyes. A reminder of what was done to me. A punishment for surviving when I should have died. I moved closer to the bars, close enough that I could have reached through and touched it if I'd been foolish enough. You're not a punishment, I said softly. You're a survivor. And Dacian is still in there, still fighting. I know he is. The creature's head tilted. How do you know? Because he told me about the little girl. The child he killed. Tears burned my eyes. A monster wouldn't remember. A monster wouldn't care. But Dacian remembers every single person this curse has taken. And it's destroying him. The creature was silent. So I'm not going to kill you, I continued. And I'm not going to run. I'm going to stand here until dawn and remind you, over and over, who you really are. And who am I? The question was almost curious. You're Alpha Dacian Nyx. The Scarred King. The male who united 6 territories. The wolf who's been searching for a way to break his curse for 8 years because he's desperate to protect the people he loves. I pressed my hands against the bars, meeting those white eyes steadily. You're the male who sees me. Who makes me feel like I matter. Who kissed me and called me magnificent. Something cracked in the creature's expression. And you're my mate, I finished. My fated mate. And I'm not letting this curse take you. The creature stared at me for a long moment. Then it threw back its head and howled. The sound was agonized, furious, desperate. It threw itself against the chains with renewed violence, blood spraying from where the iron cut deep. Dacian, I shouted over the noise. I know you can hear me. Fight it. Come back to me. The creature turned those white eyes on me, and for just a heartbeat, I saw a flicker of grey. Kira, it said in Dacian's voice. Run. Then the white consumed everything again, and the monster smiled. Too late, it said. And it began to pull against the chains with strength that made the iron groan. Chapter 10, Breaking Chains. The chains were breaking. I watched in horror as the creature, the thing that wore Dacian's face, pulled against the iron restraints with inhuman strength. The bolts holding the chains to the floor began to crack, stone dust falling like snow. No, I whispered. No, no, no. The creature's laugh was like broken glass. Yes. Soon I'll be free. Soon I'll tear through these bars and reach you, little moon. And then, Dacian, listen to me. I pressed myself against the bars, desperate. I know you're fighting. I heard you. You told me to run, which means you're still in there. The creature's white eyes fixed on me. A death rattle. Nothing more. Bullshit. I refused to back down. You're stronger than this curse. You've survived it for 8 years. You've fought it every single full moon, locked yourself down here to protect your pack. That's not a monster, that's a protector. One of the chains snapped. The creature's arm was free. It immediately began tearing at the other restraints, its claws shredding through iron like paper. I had seconds. Maybe less. My hand found the silver dagger, and I pulled it free. The blade gleamed in the torchlight, beautiful and deadly. One strike to the heart. That's all it would take. But I couldn't. I couldn't kill him. Instead, I did the only thing I could think of. I started talking. About everything. About nothing. About us. The first time I saw you, I said, my voice shaking, you stepped out of the shadows like something from a nightmare. This massive black wolf with scars that glowed silver. I thought you were death itself. The creature paused in its struggles, listening. But then you shifted, and I saw your face. And you looked at me like I mattered. Like I was something precious instead of something disposable. Another chain snapped. No one had ever looked at me like that before, I continued. My father looked past me. My stepbrothers looked through me. The pack looked away. But you saw me. The creature's claws scraped against the remaining chains. Sentiment won't save you. Maybe not. But it might save you. I pressed my forehead against the bars, closing my eyes. Do you remember what you said to me? After the first trial? You called me magnificent. Silence. No one had ever called me that, I whispered. No one had ever made me feel strong or brave or worthy. But you did. In one word, you gave me more than my father gave me in 19 years. I opened my eyes and found the creature staring at me with those terrible white eyes. So I'm not giving up on you, Dacian. Even if you've given up on yourself. The final chain snapped. The creature was free. It rose to its full height, towering and terrifying, blood dripping from its wrists where the iron had cut deep. It took one step toward the bars separating us. Then another. Last chance, little moon, it said in that gravel death voice. Use that dagger. Kill me before I kill you. My hand tightened on the weapon. It would be so easy. One strike. Save myself. Let Dacian die so the curse couldn't spread. But then I thought about the way he'd held me after the arena fight. The way he'd kissed me like I was precious. The way he'd looked at me with those storm-grey eyes and promised to never let me go. I thought about the male beneath the monster. And I made my choice. I dropped the dagger. The silver blade clattered against the stone floor, sliding away into the corner of my tiny cage. The creature's white eyes widened. What are you doing? Choosing you, I said simply. Over fear. Over survival. Over everything. I pressed both hands against the bars between us and looked directly into those empty white eyes. If you're going to kill me, Dacian, then kill me. But I won't make it easy for you. I won't run. I won't fight. Because I know that somewhere inside this curse, you're still in there. And you would never hurt me. The creature reached through the bars. Its claws, long and sharp and deadly, wrapped around my throat. One squeeze. That's all it would take to crush my windpipe, to end this. I didn't move. Didn't struggle. Didn't even flinch. I just looked into those white eyes and whispered, I trust you. The creature's grip tightened. My vision started to blur. My lungs burned. But I didn't fight. Didn't try to pull away. I just kept my eyes on its face, searching for any sign of the male I'd started to love. Kira, the creature said in Dacian's voice. Why won't you fight me? Because you're not the enemy, I gasped out. The curse is. Its claws dug deeper, and I tasted blood. But then, something flickered in those white eyes. A flash of grey, there and gone. You're really not going to fight, it said wonderingly. You're just going to let me kill you. If that's what it takes, I managed. To prove that I trust you. That I see you. That I love you. The words died in my throat, but I saw understanding dawn in the creature's expression. No, it said, and the voice was Dacian's now, fully Dacian's. No, Kira, I can't. The claws released my throat. I collapsed against the bars, gasping for air, my hand pressed to my neck where I could feel blood trickling down. The creature stumbled backward, staring at its own claws in horror. What have I done? You stopped, I said hoarsely. You chose to stop. The curse, it's still, I can feel it trying to take control again, its body convulsed, fighting against itself. I understood then. This was the moment. The choice between the monster and the man. And I was the anchor he needed to choose correctly. I reached through the bars, ignoring every survival instinct screaming at me, and took one of those clawed hands in mine. Look at me, I commanded. Dacian, look at me. The creature's white eyes found mine. You are not this curse, I said fiercely. You are not the monster they made you. You are the male who trained me, who protected me, who saw me when no one else did. You are Alpha Dacian Nyx, and you are stronger than dark magic. I'm not. You are. I squeezed its hand, feeling the claws prick my skin but not caring. The witches took 3 years of your life. They bled you and tortured you and cursed you. But they didn't break you. You survived. You built a pack. You became a king. The creature was shaking now, its entire body trembling with the effort of maintaining control. And you found me, I whispered. Your fated mate. The moon goddess gave me to you for a reason, Dacian. Not to kill you. Not to fear you. But to help you break free. How? The word was anguished. How do I break free when the curse is part of me? I thought about everything Lyric had told me. About love being stronger than dark magic. About seeing through the monster to the man beneath. About choice. By choosing me, I said. Right here. Right now. Choose me over the rage. Choose me over the hunger. Choose me over everything the curse wants you to be. The creature stared at me with those white eyes, and I saw the war happening inside. Saw the curse fighting to maintain control. Saw Dacian fighting to break free. I don't know if I can, it whispered. Then let me help you. I did the most insane thing I'd ever done in my life. I shifted. My silver wolf erupted free, smaller than the creature in front of me but no less fierce. And then I did what every instinct told me not to do. I pressed myself against the bars, as close to the creature as I could get, and I began to sing. Not with my voice, wolves couldn't speak in animal form, but with my soul. With the mate bond that connected us, contract or no contract. I sang to him through that bond. Showed him memories of us training together, fighting together, standing together. Showed him the way he looked at me with those storm grey eyes, the way he'd called me magnificent, the way he'd promised to never let me go. Showed him love. The creature's white eyes began to change. Grey bled into the white like ink in water. First just flecks, then streaks, then entire patches of color returning. Kira, it said in Dacian's voice. I can hear you. I can feel you. Then come back to me, I sang through the bond. Choose me. Choose us. The creature's body began to shift, shrinking, reforming. The wrong angles corrected themselves. The too many teeth retracted. The claws softened into hands. And there, kneeling on the stone floor of the dungeon, covered in blood and scars and exhaustion, was Dacian. Just Dacian. His eyes were pure storm grey again, no white anywhere. His scars had stopped glowing. His breathing was ragged but steady. Human. Kira, he breathed, staring at me through the bars. You did it. You brought me back. I shifted back to human form, not caring that I was naked, not caring about anything except the fact that he was alive and whole and him. The curse, I said urgently. Is it gone? Wonder filled his voice. I can feel it. The curse is gone. You broke it. Then he was moving, tearing at the bars between us with his bare hands. The iron that should have been unbreakable bent under his grip, weakened by the curse's breaking. He wrenched the bars apart just wide enough to slip through, and then he was in my tiny cage with me, pulling me into his arms, holding me so tight I couldn't breathe. You stayed, he said roughly against my hair. I told you to run, and you stayed. You dropped the dagger. You let me, God, Kira, I could have killed you. But you didn't. I wrapped my arms around him, ignoring the blood and the scars and the fact that we were both naked and shaking. You chose me. You came back. He pulled back just enough to cup my face, his thumbs brushing away tears I hadn't realized were falling. I love you, he said simply. I've loved you from the moment you crossed into my territory with fire in your eyes and desperation in your scent. You are my mate, Kira Ashwood. Not because of a contract or a trial or a curse. But because the moon goddess made you for me and me for you. My heart felt too big for my chest. I love you too. Even though you're bossy and terrifying and you made me fight your beater. He kissed me. It was different from the other kisses we'd shared. No desperation. No fear. Just pure, overwhelming love. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, I realized something. The moonblood flower, I whispered. I passed all 3 trials. I earned it. Dacian's smile was devastating. You did more than earn it, little moon. You saved me. Saved my pack. Saved everyone I would have killed if the curse had taken me completely. He stood, pulling me up with him, and wrapped me in his torn shirt to cover my nakedness. Come, he said, taking my hand. Let's get you that flower. Let's save your father. We emerged from the dungeon together just as dawn broke over the mountains, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. The Shadowveil pack was waiting. Every single member, their faces anxious and hopeful. When they saw Dacian walking out alive, human, whole, the celebration that erupted shook the castle walls. Lyric was the first to reach us, tears streaming down her face. The curse. Broken, Dacian confirmed. The beater threw her arms around both of us, laughing and crying at the same time. I knew it. I knew she could do it. Dacian led me through the celebrating crowd, through the castle, to a door I'd never seen before. It opened onto a private garden, and there, growing in the center of a pool of silver moonlight, was the moonblood flower. It was beautiful, petals like drops of blood, stem like silver, radiating a soft glow that made my chest ache. Dacian picked it carefully, reverently, and placed it in my hands. For your father, he said. For the alpha who raised the most magnificent wolf I've ever known. I stared at the flower, feeling its power humming against my palms, and realized something. I'd come to Shadowveil desperate and broken, willing to sell myself for a cure. But I was leaving whole. Loved. Chosen. The invisible girl had finally been seen. Epilogue. The Alpha Queen. I returned to Silverpine 3 days later with the moonblood flower and Dacian at my side. My father was barely conscious when we arrived, his skin grey as ash, his breathing shallow. But the moment I pressed the flower to his lips, color began to return to his face. The cure worked. Within hours, he was sitting up. Within a day, he was standing. Within a week, he was whole again. And when he finally looked at me, really looked at me, I saw something I'd never seen before in his amber eyes. Pride. You saved me, he said, pulling me into his arms. My daughter saved me. I did, I agreed. Because you're worth saving. Even though you spent 19 years making me feel worthless, you're still my father. And I still love you. He pulled back, tears streaming down his face. I'm sorry. For everything I did wrong. For making you invisible. For not seeing what was right in front of me. I know. I squeezed his hand. But I'm not that invisible girl anymore, father. I'm the Alpha Queen of Shadowveil now. Dacian's true mate. And I'm strong enough to forgive you, even though you never deserved forgiveness. My father looked at Dacian, who stood behind me with his hand resting possessively on my shoulder. You'll take care of her, my father asked. With my life, Dacian promised. Your daughter broke a curse that has plagued my bloodline for 8 years. She faced a monster and saw a man. She chose love over fear. I will spend the rest of my existence making sure she knows how precious she is. My father nodded slowly. Then he did something that shocked me. He knelt. Alpha Marcus Ashwood, leader of the Silverpine Pack, knelt before his daughter and her mate. Forgive me, Kira, he whispered. And know that you've made me prouder than any son ever could have. I helped him to his feet and hugged him tight. I forgive you, father. But I'm not coming back to Silverpine. He nodded, understanding. You belong with him now. With your pack. With my mate, I corrected. But you'll always be my father. And Silverpine will always have an ally in Shadowveil. We stayed in Silverpine for another week, ensuring my father's full recovery and settling pack politics. My stepbrothers apologized awkwardly but sincerely for the years of cruelty. Even Finn managed to look ashamed. Then Dacian and I returned to Shadowveil, to the dark castle that had become my home, to the pack that had accepted me as their queen. The contract dissolved the moment the year was up, just as promised. But by then, it didn't matter. Because Dacian and I had already completed the true mate bond, the one that lasted forever, not just 12 months. On the anniversary of the day I'd crossed into his territory, he took me back to that clearing where we'd first met. Where he'd stepped out of the shadows and looked at me like I was the most important thing in the world. I have something for you, he said, pulling a small box from his pocket. Inside was a ring, silver twisted with moonstone, beautiful and simple. You already have my mark, he said, brushing his thumb over the mate mark on my throat. You already have my heart. But I wanted to give you this too. A symbol that you're not just my mate. You're my choice. Every day, for the rest of our lives, I choose you. I kissed him, tasting salt from my own tears. And I choose you. The Scarred King who saw an invisible girl and made her a queen. He slipped the ring onto my finger, and it fit perfectly. Because of course it did. The moon goddess didn't make mistakes. 3 months later, I discovered I was pregnant. 6 months after that, I gave birth to a daughter with storm grey eyes and silver blonde hair. We named her Luna, for the moon goddess who'd brought us together. And when she was old enough, I would tell her the story of how her mother was once invisible, how her father was once cursed, and how love broke the chains that bound them both. Because sometimes the greatest strength isn't physical power or mental fortitude. Sometimes it's simply the courage to be seen, to be chosen, to be loved, and to love in return, even when everything says you shouldn't. Especially then. The end. This is Kira's story. The invisible girl who became a queen. The wolf who broke a curse with nothing but trust and love. If you enjoyed this journey, drop a comment below telling me which moment hit you hardest. Was it when she dropped the dagger? When Dacian's eyes turned from white to grey? When her father finally knelt? And remember, you are never as invisible as you think you are. Someone sees you. Someone always sees you. You just have to be brave enough to let them. Until next time, my wolves. May the moon light your path.